There's a long history of humans trying to make a go of it along the Lost River Range. These ancient Shoshone pictographs suggest a subsistence culture that lived by hunting many years ago. And they likely mark a place of spiritual power among these peaks. Like other mountains of the Basin and Range province, the Lost River Range runs in a north-south direction. And at the southern end is the town of Arco, originally known as Root Hog. In 1955, Arco entered the history books when an experimental nuclear power plant 20 miles away generated electricity and fed it into the transmission lines. The first time a town was ever powered by nuclear energy. All thanks to the pioneering genius of the nearby Federal Research Facility, known today as the Idaho National Laboratory. At the other end of the Lost River Range is Challis, the largest town in Custer County and the county seat. A sign in town calls Challis the Wilderness Gateway, a reference to the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness. On the other side of town is the more accessible Land of the Yankee Fork State Park. You could easily spend several days here, catching glimpses of mining's glory years in ghost towns like Bayhorse, Custer, and Bonanza. The miles of back roads used by miners are now open to recreationists, thanks to a cooperative agreement with the Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and others. You can also see one of the best preserved dredges in the country. It operated off and on between 1940 and 1947. Mining still employs some Challis residents, but ranching doesn't seem to have quite the ups and downs as the search for molybdenum, silver, and gold.
It's just hard for the mines to stay open. And the ranchers that have been able to stay here have had to adapt and find other incomes as well to help support the ranch. And we love it here and wanted to raise our family here because of the lifestyle. We like our little secret here, but more and more people are finding it, but it hasn't changed a lot, very little really.
As a local, I don't really mind the influx of people once in a while, but I don't want a stoplight and I don't want it to change, too much, because that's what gives us our uniqueness.
Located between Challis and Arco is the town most associated with the Lost River Range. Like Challis, Mackay has over the years relied upon the promise of mining. And when things were good, they were very good. During the war, Mackay was the largest producer of copper in the state. But sooner or later, the ore plays out, even in areas as rich as the nearby White Knob Mountains. Local historian Earl Lockie believes it's tourism and a well-laid-out history that is the real gem of Mackay.
We'll never have a main street full of appliance stores, clothing stores. They'll never come back. But if we can just hang on to what we got, that's the key, in my opinion. The future of Mackay lies in its history and tourism. So we're going to try to capitalize on that.
In Mackay, there are a few traditions that have hung on, like this rodeo, billed as the wildest rodeo in the state. Even the rain can't stop this one.
It's a great event, and I've always thanked the Pearsons who did this for decades. Their family sacrificed so much to keep it going. Everybody went to the rodeo, and they'd come from everywhere to go to the Mackay Rodeo. And now we feel like it's on our shoulders to keep it going. But it's just harder and harder to get sponsors. We're a very, very small community. So I went out and talked to a lot of outside sponsors. And then all the ranchers said, hey, rodeo started with ranching. I need you guys to buy into this program. And they've been gracious to jump in. We have a $10,000 added purse, which is a big deal. You go to Mackay, Idaho, you're gonna make some good money.
Here we go, take a lunch. Slide and run. Austin, Cutler, Challis, Idaho, stand out.
You know, this valley is so important to me, and that's why I'm so passionate about keeping it going.
Idaho's finest from the Cutler family.
Another tradition that's been around for more than 80 years is barbecue, which celebrates the purchase of the nearby dam. And it's free to anyone who cares to drop by the Mackay Tourist Park the third week in September. In fact, their slogan is, "Tons of meat, it's Mackay's treat." And this year, the townspeople cooked up 1,800 pounds of beef.
It's probably our biggest public affair and brings people from all over. This barbecue oven is probably the only one like it in the state. Built in 1938. They build this huge fire in there. They keep this fire roaring for about 24 hours, and they clear it all out. They roll this meat rack in there with all the roast seasoned and everything. There's no fire in there, but they seal the door, and that tremendous heat inside roasts all the meat.
Oh, that's perfect.
The tradition dates back to the 1930s when angry, desperate farmers dynamited part of the newly constructed dam.
It was built to service ARCO. They were going to irrigate 80,000 acres with this dam up here. They had all the water that was in the dam running through canals out to ARCO. And all the riverbed dried up between here and ARCO. Most of the domestic wells dried up. A lot of God-fearing religious people decided this isn't right. And they went up and blew the dam up. After that, the powers to be saw fit to get a loan from the federal government to purchase the construction company's ownership of the dam and all the irrigation works. That's why we celebrate having a Mackay free barbecue for the last 79 years.
We are such a small community, anything like that is helpful to our economics. I think it'd be so hard for us to not have this from an economic standpoint and from a personal standpoint. I think it'd be a real detriment, I really do.